Some crimes are hard to understand and even harder to forget. This is her crime. Her name was Sante Kimes, and from the very beginning, nothing about her was what it seemed. She was born on July 24th, 1934, in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, the third of 4 children. Her father abandoned the family when she was just 3 years old. What followed was a childhood marked by instability, hardship, and trauma. She was eventually placed into foster care and later adopted by a family in Carson City, Nevada. On the outside, she appeared completely normal. A cheerleader, a member of the Glee Club, a girl who smiled for everyone around her. But underneath that carefully constructed surface, something very different was taking shape. In the 1960s, she moved to Las Vegas, and that is where her criminal career truly began. Petty theft, auto theft, larceny, small crimes at first. But Sante Kimes was never thinking small. She was always looking for the next opportunity, the next person to manipulate, the next con to run. And she was extraordinarily good at it. In the early 1970s, she met Kenneth Kimes Sr., a wealthy motel tycoon, successful, respected, completely unaware of who he was really dealing with. They married in 1981, and together they had a son, Kenneth Kimes Jr., born in 1975. To the outside world, they were a wealthy, glamorous family, living a life most people only dream about. But behind that facade, Sante was running cons, committing fraud and setting fires to collect insurance money. She had found the perfect cover, and she used every inch of it. In 1985, the carefully constructed facade began to crack. Sante Kimes was arrested and convicted of keeping illegal immigrants as domestic slaves in her home, threatening them, controlling them, treating human beings as property. She was sentenced to prison, but even behind bars, Sante Kimes was already thinking about what came next. When she was released, her husband, Kenneth Sr., was waiting. But things were different now. The cracks in their world were getting wider. And in March 1994, Kenneth Kimes Sr. passed away from an aneurysm. The one person who had given Sante a veneer of respectability was gone. And without him, there was nothing left to hold her back. She turned to her son. Kenneth Jr. was young. He adored his mother, and she knew exactly how to use that. Little by little, she pulled him into her world. The cons, the fraud, the schemes. One journalist once called them Mommy and Clyde. And that is exactly what they became. In September 1996, a banker named Syed Bilal Ahmed, who managed Sante's offshore accounts, vanished after meeting the Kimes in the Bahamas. Kenneth Jr. later confessed that they had drugged Ahmed, drowned him in a bathtub, and disposed of his body in the ocean. His remains were never found. No charges were ever filed. And Sante Kimes kept moving. In March 1998, the body of a man named David Kasdin was found in a dumpster near Los Angeles Airport. He had been a business associate of the Kimes. He had helped Sante with real estate fraud. But when he threatened to expose her, he became a liability. And Sante Kimes did not tolerate liabilities. Later that same year, Sante and Kenneth Jr. set their sights on something bigger. Irene Silverman was 82 years old, a former Rockette, a socialite, elegant, warm, completely trusting. The owner of a magnificent limestone townhouse on the Upper East Side of New York City. A woman who had spent her entire life building something beautiful. And Sante Kimes wanted every inch of it. Kenneth Jr. posed as a tenant and moved into her home under a false name. He barely spoke. He avoided the security cameras, and on the days he did not come in through the front door, he would sneak in an older woman who spent the night just as evasively. Irene Silverman began to grow suspicious. She confided in friends that something felt wrong. She even began keeping notes about her mysterious tenant. But by then it was already too late. The plan was already in motion. Forge the documents, take the property, leave no witnesses. Irene Silverman vanished, and she has never been found. On July the 5th, 1998, FBI and New York City police officers arrested Sante and Kenneth Kimes Jr. at the New York Hilton. Inside the Kimes car, investigators discovered notebooks meticulously detailing their entire plan. Every step, every lie, every name, written down in Sante's own hand. The trial that followed was unlike anything the American justice system had seen before. No body, no murder weapon, and yet the evidence was overwhelming. In May 2000, the jury voted unanimously to convict Sante and Kenneth Kimes Jr. on 118 charges, including the murder of Irene Silverman. Sante was sentenced to 120 years in prison. She stood before the court and compared her trial to the Salem witch trials. The judge called her a sociopath and a degenerate. 4 years later, Kenneth Jr. made a decision that would define the rest of his life. He confessed, not just to the murder of Irene Silverman, but to David Kasdan, to the Bahamas, to everything. He testified against his own mother in exchange for a plea deal that would spare them both the death penalty. When he started confessing, she started crying. He later said from prison, "I know she destroyed my life, but I love my mum." Sante Kimes spent the rest of her life behind the walls of Bedford Hills Correctional Facility in New York. She never stopped claiming her innocence. She never stopped manipulating everyone around her. She compared her trial to the Salem witch trials. She blamed her lawyers. She blamed the authorities. She blamed everyone except herself. Even behind bars, Sante Kimes never truly stopped running. On May 19, 2014, Sante Kimes died in prison from natural causes. She was 79 years old. She outlived Irene Silverman's chance at justice. She outlived David Kasdan's family's hope for answers. She outlived the very system she spent her entire life trying to outrun. But the bars of Bedford Hills were the one thing she could never con her way out of. Kenneth Jr. remains incarcerated to this day. He has said he loves his mother. He has said she destroyed his life. Both of those things can be true at the same time. Irene Silverman, never found. David Kasdan, murdered. Syed Bilal Ahmed, never found. Sante Kimes called herself the victim. They had no such choice.